So I thought about answering this question privately, directing to the person who asked it. But then I thought, if someone is asking this, then there will be probably other people who are curious about it. And I don't mind sharing it at all. But I don't want my number of how much I'm spending on ads to be discouraging for people starting out, because when I started out, I didn't spend this much amount of money. Like, I gradually grew into spending more because I was making more. I was selling more tickets. So I will share in the next slide how much I spend on ads and how many are my ticket sales. There'll be other costs that are not included in that. So usually months where I make 10K revenue, only around 5,000 or 6,000 of those is actually, profit that I can pay my bills and spend the money as I want to, because there will be, venue hire and materials and other random expenses that you have to account for. So my business is profitable, but I'm not like a millionaire or making crazy amount of money. Like, it's very reasonable. Last couple of questions about the money side of things. I've spent around like $2,000 in materials when I started, and probably have spent more in materials since then. Like, when I say materials, I mean like tools, like investment in tools and stuff. I didn't order the materials and the tools before I started selling. Like, I started selling the tickets. So if I don't count with that investment, because I had already started the business technically, the only investment I had was, basically my time, the Squarespace membership, which is, I think, like $60 a month. And I spent around $200 on ads before I started seeing sales coming through. So probably just to get started, like $300. And then very quickly I started selling tickets and I bought like $2,000. I love this question because I think that there is no right or wrong. Like, I don't think there is a best case scenario. I think that it's highly dependent on your experience, where you live. Oh my gosh, this sounds so sorry. Your experience where you live, in like the population where you live. For example, I've seen artists doing, like, if you live in a big city like New York, Los Angeles, London, I think you can get away with having just one craft, one type of workshop, because there's a huge population, there's a lot of tourists. For what I noticed for me personally, if I was doing just one type of craft, one type of workshop, I wouldn't make enough money, because where I live doesn't have that big of a population. So I offer a variety. But I do think it can work if you only want to do one specific craft, depending on where you live. This feels like a very timely question, because I am actually now just in the process of moving from Squarespace to Shopify. So I've been selling my tickets through my own website on Squarespace, and I'm now moving to Shopify for a bunch of different reasons, which I can share. I'll share in the next story, maybe, perhaps. But yeah, that's how I do it. But actually, inside the Craft Workshop Academy, I teach people how to get started without a website, because I didn't have a website before I started my business, and I was already doing events and workshops. So you don't need a website. You can use something like Eventbrite or Humanitix, and there's a few others, but those are the two main ones that I've used and I like. This is one of the many things that's inside of the Craft Workshop Academy, so you should definitely sign up. But if I had to give like an overview, it really depends on which workshop we're talking about, because they will be different. But for the one that I do the most, the Paul McClay earrings, it usually goes for 2 hours, and it's like a beginner friendly workshop. So I do like an introduction. I make sure to tell people that it's a beginner workshop. And then, they also have a little guide that, they can look at with some inspiration and stuff. And then we'll sculpt for an hour, we bake things, and then we assemble things with like pliers and stuff. Like, we don't use any drills, because it is a beginner's workshop. And yeah, sometimes people do come with like really ambitious things that they've seen on Pinterest, and I have to be like, that will take 5 hours. We're not gonna do that, but it's usually pretty chilled. Selling tickets is one of my favorite things to do, and I will let you in on a secret. The way to find the right people is, first, you need to know who these people are. You need to know who wants to come to your workshops. Once you do that, you can advertise to them.
and that's how you sell tickets. If you want to check out my marketing masterclass, I will leave a link here and you can check it out. I'm also going to update my marketing masterclass, because when I relaunched my main program, the Crafts Workshop Academy, back in May, I've updated all my marketing materials, and I want to update the masterclass as well. So if you've purchased my masterclass in the past, stay tuned, because there's an update coming. If you haven't right now, it's a great way to do it, because the price will probably go up.
Let's answer some questions before I start my workday. So this was one of my favorites. And the way I got started, like, I don't feel like I started for fun. I didn't thought it would become a business. I just started like helping a friend who was doing this like very niche thing. And at the moment I was doing like some marketing freelance. I had some clients and I kind of wanted her to become a client. So I started helping her out, and then it kind of progressed more than the marketing. And I started helping her with the workshops and everything. And then she left the country, and I was like, oh, I still want to keep doing this because I'm having so much fun. And then I started my business. So I feel like it was a very kind of like a gradual kind of start, where I don't feel like I took a plunge and got it started. Like, I literally didn't thought it would become a business. It was just something for fun. And yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna answer some questions while I wait for my people to arrive. So I went full-time with workshops quite early on in my business, because I had done it before I had a business. I had already done workshops with someone else for 3-4 months, and then when I started my business I went full-time on it already, because it just made sense to me at the time and I was making enough money. But I definitely then had to wait, like I lived on very little, and I had another couple of months when I started the business that it was definitely not making enough, because I was investing in it a lot. But I would say altogether probably 5 months until, going from never done a workshop to now do it full time, 5-6 months.
Just literally had this question, and I think it's so funny because I always sometimes I always make it look like it's so easy to just take an idea and run a workshop with it. But the reality is that sometimes it takes a bit of time, like really depends on the type of craft that you're trying to do. So for the polymer clay, my cat decided to make an appearance. The polymer clay workshops, I'm so used to polymer clay that I can just roll with it. With new crafts that I either never done it before, I've only done it a couple times, there's some testing involved. But usually anything, depending on the material and how easy it is to source it, usually between a week to a month maximum to test out everything, and then kind of get a good idea of how the workshop should be run. Because, the length of the workshop will also influence the price of the workshop. So there's a few little details. This is one of those, the thing that people ask me the most is about like marketing and selling the tickets. And there's kind of two things that I want to mention. The first is the way I get the word out. It's basically by running ads, which sounds a little bit technical, but it's actually not that hard. Once you know who to target, it's, just a matter of using the Meta Facebook platform and getting your ads in front of the right people. And it's also one of the things that I teach you in the Crafts Workshop Academy. So I'll put like a link in here. And I started selling tickets. Now I have a bit of a following in my business account, but I started selling tickets when I had only like 200 followers. So you don't need to have an Instagram with the following to sell your workshop tickets. Very important.
A few polymer clay related questions, especially around bake times, that Kirsten came more than once. There is different. So we bake things during the workshops. Workshops are usually around 2 hours, and we bake it during the workshop. And I use a polymer clay that only takes 15 minutes to bake. So people will be sculpting for an hour, and then we do the rest of the things. So it's because this year I've made my workshops like way more affordable than they used to be. I've also made just like 2 hours. So it's meant to be like, a
a fun but quick experience that they come and do a couple of earrings. It's not meant to like be super long workshop. But yeah, I bake them in the workshop. I've answered this question maybe 100 million times, and I also briefly talk about it in my masterclass, which is free, and you can watch it. I'll leave a link around here. But long story short, at the start of last year, I'd quit my job to focus on a product-based business that I was doing that didn't really make me enough money. So I was doing a bunch of random stuff, like I was doing some marketing freelance. I worked as a nene. I was promoting some classical concert events, and even had like some hospitality work. And then I saw a friend of mine who was doing this super niche body positive sculpting experience. And I was like, oh, I think like this would be quite like a cool thing for me to do in Europe while I have this holiday, because I didn't really had much money to go on a holiday even. After starting to help her out, like to grow it and to scale it, I launched my first candle making workshop by myself, and I just was really, really loving the workshop vibes. So fast forward, we were going to do a business together, but it didn't really work out. So I created my own business, Karma Creative Studios. So I've always been very crafty, and I've been doing like arts and crafts since I can remember. I was really into polymer clay when I was like 8, 19. But I went on, to study and used to have a job, and then I was doing some marketing freelance until last year. When I started helping a friend with some events and workshops, and that went really crazy because, I was doing it for fun, and it was like a very niche, we weren't doing it every week. It was like big workshops here and there. And we thought we'd be doing a joint venture, but she moved out of the country. So I've started my own business. In my first workshop by myself was in a different city because I was traveling to that city for a wedding, and I thought, oh, I might as well just do a workshop. And I booked 30 people to do it by myself, and it was absolutely chaos. And I do not recommend to go and do a 30 people workshop by yourself. It was great.